Greetings, everyone. We are continuing with day 2 of Journey to Self's Please Ask campaign. As a reminder, I am Aniqua Acree, the founder and executive director of the Georgia-based nonprofit J2S Journey to Self. Our Please Ask campaign is a community engagement campaign. We are focused on bringing awareness to childhood sexual abuse while also aiding in the healing of survivors and providing training along the way to people in children's lives so that they are empowered to truly ask kids about sexual abuse. So this session features a returning speaker, Nikki, who will be talking to us about what life as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse is like. But before we begin, please note that the information you hear today and throughout the campaign overall may be triggering. So if you believe that you and or someone that you know has experienced sexual abuse, please do not hesitate to call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline. Their phone number is 1-800-656-4673. Hey, Nikki.
But
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. So listen, thank you so much for joining us on yesterday for day 1 of the Please Ask campaign. But for those who are new and maybe just now joining in, can you tell us who you are and just share a little about yourself?
Yes. So I'm Nikki Adams. I am the owner of Beauty for Ashes Wellness Cultivation, and I am a trauma-informed yoga teacher and survivor of childhood sexual abuse. I help facilitate survivors' healing journeys through trauma-informed yoga and empower them to trust, love, and heal their bodies.
I love it. I love it. I was very particular when planning the Please Ask campaign and wanting to make sure that every speaker or partner that I partnered with on this campaign not only had expertise in the subject matter, but had a personal connection or a tie. I feel like that is what separates Journey to Self and this Please Ask campaign from like other work that is done around this same topic or field. So when many people think about sexual abuse, they see it as just this physical, attack on a person. But I feel that it is very imperative that we also highlight the emotional aspects of sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So Nikki, can you share with us some emotional effects that childhood sexual abuse could have on someone?
Yes, definitely. The first thing that comes to mind is shame and embarrassment, guilt. Like many survivors, I really blame myself for what happened to me.
Yeah.
A sense of grief, a sense of losing your child, the child you were supposed to be, the person you were supposed to be.
Right.
Along with isolation, feeling like you're the only person who went through this, you can't talk to anybody. And then, of course, like mental health issues pop up when it comes to like anxiety, depression, and PTSD, which a lot of, people who suffer from PTSD also struggle with anger. So
that was definitely, the anger part was definitely a big one for me. It's so funny because I feel that from my experience with childhood sexual abuse, I somewhat detached myself and my emotions, if that makes sense. So it was like physically, I was there and I was present. I could answer questions, I could respond, but emotionally, I completely I don't know where I was, honestly. And I feel like since starting Journey to Self, I've somewhat just reconnected with my emotions. And it's just interesting because as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and losing that emotional, state or that sense of self, and as a mom now, my daughter is like, I can count on one hand how many times I've seen you cry. Like, I don't even like crying in front of you because you make it so weird. And I'm like, oh my God. So just that, emotionally being unavailable was definitely a big part for me. And so as I heal, I'm trying to just reconnect with those feelings and understand that they're normal, and that it's actually really healthy to show emotions. So when you and I first connected, Nikki, you mentioned that you are not only a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, but that you're also raising a child who is a survivor, And so how has that affected your parenting?
I kind of want to piggyback after what you said about emotional
Right.
availability.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be honest, I wasn't ready to be a parent. I had my first child at 19 years old and in the midst of an abusive relationship, in the midst of just telling my story and being homeless and all of that stuff. And I, I had my kids because I felt like that was the right thing to do. And like, I had to, I got to take care of my kids and things like that. But I just knew to take care of them. Like, they were fed, they were clothed, they had a roof over their head for the most part once I got myself together.
Right.
All of that. But emotionally, I wasn't nurturing. I was triggered all the time. I just came to realize that my son was a big trigger for me, especially as he started to get older, his teenage years.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would spaz out all the time on them. I wasn't ready to be a parent. And even to this day,
Yeah.
now being a mom of a survivor, because I started my healing journey within the last 3 years, like really digging deep and getting into my own, working with my own stuff. I come to realize to, like, in my yoga practice has helped me with this a lot. Respond versus react. And, like, really connect with my body and be like, what's going on here? Like, my heart is beating, all the physical sensations that you feel when you are triggered.
Right.
Being a parent and being a parent of as a survivor and of a survivor can be very triggering.
Yeah.
And so now I really work on noticing the sensations in my body, because a lot of things come back up. My daughter's 14 years old and I'm looking at her as me,
Right.
Like, parallel type of experience I'm having. And I have to realize, like, I'm safe. I got to always come back to myself and know that I'm safe. And sometimes I got to be like, go chill out for a minute before I can talk to you, or I can't talk to you. It might take me longer than I want to, like a day. 24 hours. She's a little bit older, so she's stuck in her room anyways. But I need that. I'd rather take the time and figure out how to effectively handle certain situations as a parent, rather than like reacting and getting into my own emotions, and this is a triggering experience for me, and I remember my mother used to, and all of this stuff is coming up for me as I'm trying to discipline or parent my child, and it's not working. It's creating a larger space between us.
Right.
And I forgot.
I totally agree with everything that you're saying. That's been very similar for me, especially with me spending so much time having suppressed the abuse that I went through. And so in a sense, I had forgotten about it. And I somewhat took on the identity of like all the coping I was doing. So I did a lot of coping with anger. It was just nobody else is going to try me like this. Nobody else is going to take anything from me. And so I had this very just don't play with me type of energy and attitude. And instead of knowing that that was my way of surviving, that was my way of getting through that tough time, I just thought that was me. So it's like, yeah, I'm Aniqua and I don't play, And so, yeah, that molded into just me as a parent. Like, don't play with mommy. Like, don't play with mommy. And I'm so happy that I have just these old souls and my tiny little kids. And so they will check me like, hold on, sis. Like, like what's going on? And so it was really important for me to take my babies on the journey of healing with me so that they not only see me when I'm at my high, but they see me at those lows too. And they're still able to talk, and sympathize for me and with me, and just seeing like mommy is human, and she's trying.
That's what I say. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's exactly what I was gonna say. Even though I struggle as a parent and things like that, along my healing journey, my daughter watched me, cry and even like speak about childhood sexual abuse, and she saw me helping people, and when she told me her story,
right,
it was very recent, that just happened, and she said, Mom, you know how you always talk about healing? I want my healing too. And like, even though what the situation was devastating, I realized that I had put myself and built a foundation to where I could handle it appropriately. And I was her, her mirror, the person that, helps her bring it out too, because I was talking about it and I was talking about healing. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Healing by example, right?
Yeah.
I love it. And I feel like oftentimes, survivors cannot easily put into words what we have experienced. So what are your thoughts around why we survivors of sexual abuse don't speak up, or at least not, as soon as it happens?
So through my research and like digging into this and really,
right.
whatever, I found that one of the statistics is 1 in 5 survivors never disclose their abuse. And then there have been studies done where survivors didn't disclose until the average age was 52 years old.
Wow.
And I disclosed twice I disclosed at 12. And for many reasons, survivors don't disclose. I took back my story. I was overwhelmed with shame, guilt, like I'm ruining the family. When everything went down and I told everybody, was crying and arguing and, and then I was being asked way too many questions, like almost like as if I wasn't believed.
Right.
And the abuser, I don't like to say my abuser because I don't own that.
Right.
The abuser was a parental figure, which made it harder for me to continue to speak up.
Right.
So, there's the overwhelm of shame, guilt. There's being asked over and over again too many questions, flat out telling survivors that they don't believe you, wanting to protect the perpetrator because it's a close family member.
Yeah.
No real legal protection, especially as women survivors.
Right.
We're not believed as Black women survivors. You can't even go to the hospital and be believed that you're sick.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's a real systematic thing, like from the government, and then the family
Right.
system, all of the systems. There's a, I don't know what you call it, but
Yes,
there's
no,
a mess in that system.
right, right.
So
Yes,
yeah, so I feel like, those are the reasons. There's so many other reasons,
right.
just internally, not knowing if what happened to you was real. Like,
Exactly.
was this a dream? Like, I remember this, but I don't know. This didn't really happen, and things like that. Um, yeah.
Yes. I resonate with everything that you shared. Another thing I want to point out too is usually, I won't say all the time, but usually when a child experiences sexual abuse, either, a parent or a guardian or just somewhere down those lines, that abuse is recurring. Like it's
Mm,
something that happens or has happened in the family
yeah.
before. And so there's all of this just hush about it,
Mhm.
and you spoke about this just now, that need to protect the family secret that takes place. And for me, as a child, when my sexual abuse took place, I was actually not questioned about why I was crying or what was going on. Like, I remember my mom just immediately asking, the abuser, what happened? What's wrong with her? But never asking me, like never giving me the space, the opportunity, or just the environment to talk about it. And so a few years later, when the abuser actually went to jail for abusing another child, um, I still wasn't really given that space to speak up because it was more so of, I know he didn't do that to you though, right? Or I, that couldn't have happened to my baby. And so it's like, oh my God, like now I'm in this point of, do I speak up and free myself from this, or do I please my parent,
Mhm.
who I don't want, her to feel like she's a bad parent because she's a single mom, she's a young mom, and I saw her every day trying her best. So it was just like, how do I? And so that silence, just continued for so many years until, like I said, I suppressed it because it's like, I can't keep living in this, because if I do, then I won't live. Like this shit is heavy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
in order to reach goals and live up to all of these standards I was expected to achieve, I had to bury it.
I also would like to say too, even if you do disclose, that's it. Don't talk about nothing else. I don't want to hear it. Like, all right, you
Right.
said it. So you still can't process. You can't process with the family, because this is a situation that doesn't just hit one person. Even if one
Yeah.
person was, enduring, the abuse, it affects the whole family when it comes out. And
Right. Right.
there's, all different types of, um, I don't know, hands in the pot when it comes to this.
Exactly.
And it makes it really hard to talk about. And
Yeah.
you know that was
Yeah. Definitely. And I think that's why it's important, that we take time to talk about the signs,
Mhm.
so that if a child does not speak up, we as parents and we as teachers and pediatricians and just everybody who has some type of connection to these babies still know other nonverbal signs to look for.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was my anger, it was my nightmares, the constant stomach aches. Like I used to, oh my God, I was at the doctor so much for like stomach issues, and never, anybody connecting those dots for me. And so I think the Please Ask campaign is so important because we need to just educate ourselves and be aware of those nonverbal signs too. And in an earlier session, one of our speakers highlighted just um, I can't remember her exact words, but it was something along the lines of like when a child is just extra just sexual, and it's like that's not normal. Let's take time to acknowledge it, and let's talk to this baby, and let's see what is going on. A lot of times we just put a blind eye to some of those more subtle signs.
I think too, like the statistics on people who have survived childhood sexual abuse is astronomical. You wouldn't even, every time you know, like I think I said before, almost every person I meet, when I express my story or share my story, is like, yeah, that happened to me too.
Yeah.
And I think when you don't deal with it, really deal with it. Like I knew I had came out with my story. It was out, but I didn't deal with what was happening with me.
Right.
I can recognize the gut intuition of what was happening with my daughter, that maybe, this might be happening, but I'm too scared to even find out because I know what it's going to do to me. Recognize that in your body. Recognize, when you're feeling that intuition, like I need to go check. I need to ask questions. I need to open up some space, whatever it may be, because even though you may be aware and you may be aware of the manipulation tactics, all of that stuff, your own healing journey, your own things that you're dealing with, that can cause that blind eye because you haven't broke through. You haven't broke through your own stuff. So I always like to bring it back to like yourself as an adult who can get the help, who can, has the responsibility to heal yourself so that you're able to be like, oh no, without feeling scared.
Right.
What's going on? What y'all doing? What's going on?
All of that.
Y'all not touching each other. Y'all not doing.
Right.
So, and trust me, I thought I had, I thought I was, okay, because most of the people that I knew can't even the person that abused me went to jail for what he did finally.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, that was just a tip of the iceberg of my healing stuff.
Right.
So I thought I was okay. I thought just saying, oh, having these little conversations like mommy went through this, I just want to make sure, whatever, but still not acting when my gut intuition told me to act because I hadn't healed my own trauma.
Right. I'm actually so happy you said that because it brings me just a little bit easier into the next topic I want to talk about, which is the importance, of that self-healing, of going on that healing journey, because quite often, and this is very unfortunate, but a lot of times the abusers don't go to jail, because it's always your word against their word, and where's the proof, where's this evidence if it's not a recording or a witness, like how are you going to just make that case in court, basically? And so a lot of times, or at least for me, I always say the healing or the point of healing and addressing and speaking up about sexual abuse isn't to always get the abuser jailed. While that should be, a no-brainer, unfortunately, like we can't control, that whole legal system. But what we can control is our healing. And so for me, it was very imperative that I went on a spiritual journey. And what I mean by that is literally going within, somewhat closing out the outside world and really focusing on Aniqua, getting to know me, getting to sit back and try to remember, as bad as it hurt to remember, but going through that and realizing that it happened and realizing that it wasn't my fault and realizing that I'm still here today, like just that constant reassuring and that constant alone time to pour into myself. And so my question is, do you believe that being abused or going through childhood sexual abuse affected you spiritually?
I'm not gonna say in a bad way.
Yeah.
Um, or a negative way or anything like that, because I always felt like I always yearned for that external, spiritual guidance,
Right.
whether it be church, whether it be, you know, whatever it is that I could fill up spiritually. I think I always kind of yearned for that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think because too, I had to. I,
Right.
I, there was times during my abuse where I had to pray.
Right.
And,
Right.
so I think
Yeah.
it definitely pushed me into more of my spirituality and things like that.
Yeah.
I know that I hear a lot of this, and I think I said this before, but I hear a lot from survivors that my childhood was taken from me, that type of thing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
really believe that. I do believe it definitely changed the trajectory of your
Right.
life, but that can be uncovered and freed. Your inner child can be freed. I think
Yeah.
that especially for me over the last couple of years, I've been really digging deep into my own spiritual connection, my own self with the
Yeah.
practice of yoga.
Yeah.
I think anything you do for yourself is a spiritual
Me
connection.
too. Yep.
You know, that could be working out, that can be sitting with a cup of water and just drinking it and just
Right.
being with yourself. I guess physically and like, you know, I don't know how to put it, but whatever you had to say.
Yeah.
um, a lot of survivors do disconnect from their body.
Yeah.
It's called disassociation. So like,
Right.
I still deal with that. Like I can just
Yeah.
go into a whole another world and not even know what the heck happened for
Me
real.
too. Me
Um,
too. Yeah.
so so that, you know, but as far as spiritually, I feel like it brought me closer. I feel like
Right.
it brought me closer to my spirit. It's proven that you disconnect, you
Right.
disassociate, and I think it's more like your body, that you are the divine
So
being.
true. So true.
So disconnecting with your body, yes, definitely, and bringing back that, like doing yoga, doing just sitting with yourself, bringing a hand to your heart and belly, maybe hugging yourself, telling yourself you're okay, things like
Yeah.
that. Always, because your mind,
Whew.
it can,
Right.
it kind of separates, especially
Yeah.
when you're a survivor of any kind of trauma.
Right.
So that's a hard question. That's why I'm all over the place.
Right.
But
No, but
it's like your body and it's your body and your spirit. And, but I feel like
exactly.
personally, I always connected with something because I needed something. I didn't have anybody else or,
Right.
nobody else to talk to. So I was always a heavy journaler, always, trying to pray, trying to be, because it's like, why me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why I'm a good, you know what I'm saying? Like, why
Right.
me? The constant search for answers and different things like that always kept me, spiritual.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I don't feel like my trauma affected me negatively
Yeah.
spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because I grew up with a mom who was just a heavy Christian. So whenever I had my nightmares, she was throwing like holy oil on me, like, girl, we're going to get you through this. I have so many memories of like being at church and people praying over me and all of these things. And I'm like, none of this is taking my pain away. None of
Yeah.
this is freeing me
Mm-hmm.
from the heaviness of the abuse. And I found it so interesting that all of this help and this aid was coming to me, but nobody knew what I was needing to heal from.
Yeah.
So that part always stuck with me. And as I got older, I started telling my story when I was 29. So still just very recent for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of solidified my stance in spirituality,
Yeah.
where I no longer sought help from the outside
Mm-hmm.
because I understood the type of trauma I experienced. I needed to reconnect with self.
Yeah.
I needed to go hug that 4-year-old version
Yeah.
of myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I needed to rebuild my self-love and my self-esteem. And all of that is only something I can do. So yoga and meditating and being outside, and just taking in fresh air and freeing myself and constantly affirming and saying affirmations to remind myself and control this mind of mine that I'm okay, and I'm healed and I'm beautiful and just all of these things. So that started my spiritual journey. And that keeps me here because it works.
Yeah.
Like you said, we are that divine being. And so it's like, no matter your belief, at some point you still have to go within, and you still have to have that self-connection to the universe and to the creator. And so
If you don't believe in nothing, believe in yourself.
that part.
Believe in yourself.
That part, Nikki. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And whew, that I'm just so full. From that I had to take a moment. So clearly, I feel like, and I think you agree that, putting in that inner work to heal, and all of it, spirituality just plays a huge role in a survivor's healing journey. I'm going to start wrapping us up a little bit. I want to make sure that you have nothing else that you want to share before I do. I know our viewers will be eager to hear that you'll be featured on some more days throughout this week. But for people who are wanting to know more about your yoga practices, or maybe even how to book you to start their healing journey, how can they get in contact with you, Nikki, after listening today?
First, I just like to take a moment to just take a deep breath.
Right.
Take a deep breath. That might have been a lot. That might have brought up some stuff for you, whoever's listening, and,
Yeah.
take a moment to reflect on your life's journey and look how far you've come.
Mm.
And, I
Yeah.
just want to invite any survivors who are listening to, when they're having, those emotional effects, those physical effects of childhood sexual abuse, to just take a moment, place a hand on your heart,
Right.
a hand on your belly, take a few deep breaths, find something that feels like supportive to you, maybe visualize a supportive presence, a color. Maybe it's a person, place. Just know that you are whole and perfect and complete where you are right now. You are worthy and you are enough. And take a deep breath in through your nose and exhale through the mouth. And when you're ready, just maybe you like to blink the eyes open and just maybe place your palms facing up towards your ceiling and notice if your energy shifted a little bit. And when you're ready, you can come back. How is that for you, Anika?
Listen, I'm so ready to do that for the rest of the morning. I'm like, oh,
yes, every time
I needed it. Yes. Yes.
Healing is a journey, not a destination. We always gotta
right.
Daily, all day, I gotta continue to
take those moments. Yeah. Yeah, I
because
think I told you the other day, I'm like, I feel like I've been holding my breath like all day. So breath work, has become really important to me. I think I spent so many years breathing the wrong way. So it's just like trying to just reconnect and take it slow and actually feel the breath, feel my body. And then with each release, like let go of some of that stress and some of that fear, So
because you're here, you're not that abused person anymore. Even though your nervous system is constantly trying to protect you,
right.
You're in a safe place. You're not in danger. Your kids are not dangerous. The people around you that love you are not dangerous. And you're safe and you're in a healing.
So I love it. I love it. I'm so grateful for you, Nikki. Make sure you tell us your IG, your website, just however they can get connected.
Yeah, so I'm more easily accessible on Instagram at Nikki_Adams, ATOMS. And if you want to check out what I'm doing and what my services are, my trauma-informed yoga services, you can go on to NikkiAdamsYoga.com.
Perfect. And then as always, I will definitely have it tagged right under this post. So if you are viewing this session right now, I send a whole lot of thanks to you all too. Let's continue to uplift this Please Ask campaign. If you know someone who has survived childhood sexual abuse, please listen to them, believe them, share this campaign with them so they can feel the sense of community as they heal and as they journey towards their true self. And of course, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube so that you can continue to engage with us. And make sure you check out Day One's content should you, have missed it. So thank you again, Nikki, for being a part of this. I can't wait to get into day 3 with you tomorrow when we talk about the offender and the characteristics, of an abuser. So until next time, y'all, peace.